Hello students and welcome to the e-learning program initiated by Shri Gyan Manjri Vidyapeeth for the students of Standard 10, in which we are learning the subject of social science. Students, from the previous lecture we started with chapter number 14, which is the last chapter of the geography section of this syllabus. So let us take a quick recap of what we have learned in the previous lecture regarding this chapter. Lecture number 2 for chapter number 14, which is on transportation. Name of the chapter is Transportation, Communication and Trade. Now, from the point of view of the exams, this chapter has lots of weightage because one complete mark is dedicated to the map work, especially from this chapter. So we have to focus, we have to keep in mind the names of various places of India. We have to remember the land routes, railway lines, etc. Right? So important trains, all these things, highways. So this chapter is quite important. And let us see what we have learned in the previous lecture. We'll start with transportation, as there are three subtopics. First is transportation, second is communication, and the third one is trade. So let us learn the first, what we have learned in the first part, that is transportation. Before coming to the definition of transportation, transportation can be considered as one of the yardsticks that we learned. Yardstick, it is a standard measurement, right? So the better the transportation, what it means is when we are checking what is the economy of that country, of any particular country, what is the economic status of that country, what is the social status of that country, what is the standard of living of that country, or what is the political progress, is there stability, or there is no particular political system in place, or the politics of the country keeps on changing every now and then, the leadership keeps on changing now and then, and so these are the standard measurements that we have. For example, political stability is there, right? Then political stability is there, that means the leadership is continuous, and the leadership is always working towards the welfare of the people. What do people need, right? They need good internal infrastructural facilities. These facilities will mean good roads, a good network of roads, a good network of railways, a good network of internal um, uh, air transport. If there are lots of water bodies, or if there are huge flowing rivers, then water transportation, good communication, good trade facilities are available. So these are the points where a country can make good economic progress, because all these internal infrastructure facilities are there. So one of that is transport. So it's a yardstick to measure the economic, social, and the political progress of a country. Now, if economic political stability is there, that means people will want to invest more capital, will want to set up more industries, factories, mills, so that they can do trade, because for a quite long number of time political stability is there. They didn't needn't worry about the policies, because policies will always be favorable for trade. So they are encouraged to set up new industries, mills, factories, etc., and produce more, so that it can be sold in the country and outside. So now, because it is sold, lots of people are working in the factory, everybody has money in their hand. So there will be lots of money in the market, there will be lots of money to be spent in the market. So automatically factories will get a boost when the products are selling. So in this way, money is in the hands of everybody. So that means the status of the society will be quite good, because standard of living will always keep on improving, because people have the salary in hand, and uh, earning is not a question. Yes, so that way economic stability of the country also becomes good, and it is on the path of progress. So we have economic development, first we have economic growth, then we have upping or increase in the standard of living. So we have quite moderate and quite stable economic progress, right? So transportation is one of the yardstick with which we measure the political stability, we measure the economic progress of a country, social development of a country. development of transportation and the different means of transportation that man uses, that is the second thing that we saw. We started from the primitive men when we were just hunters and gatherers and walked on foot and kept on searching for food and water and shelter. Then when agriculture started, we had to stay at one place, so we needed a house, and then there was a need for transportation, right? So because we need lots of things that has to be transported from various areas to us. So with the invention of wheels, till then we were using the domesticated animals like donkey, mule, uh, horses, buffaloes, etc., for the purpose, bull, etc., for the purpose of bullocks, etc., for the purpose of agriculture and transportation in that. And after that, when the wheels came, we harnessed the domesticated animals to the carts and carriages, and we efficiently used the mixture of the animal and the wheel, and we were able to transport more goods in less time with the help of wheels. So that was a development. After that, for quite a lot of number of centuries, we continued with that till uh, the iron age started, and we had industrial revolution where machines were found, and then we had mechanized transport. So today we are using that mechanized transport to the full, and science and technology is helping us to improve upon the mechanized transport. So we have better engines that can carry more load and with more speed can reduce the time which we need for transportation from place A to place B. So we have fast moving cars, fast moving trucks, a good railway network, good road network, good number of waterways, good small and big ships which can transport men and material and quite a lot of speed and in quite a lot short time. So this is the development that we have seen in the second point, that is development of transportation and the different means of transportation that man uses. Now we'll go ahead with today's lecture. Road transportation is the first one that we pick. In the section of transportation, in the subtopic of transportation, there is yet another subtopic, that is we'll start with road transportation, then we'll go to railway, right? So that way whatever modes and methods of transportation that we use, we are going to study in detail. So the first one comes is road transportation in India. Roads are the most basic and the most important transportation since ancient time, right? Even if we say people were walking from place A to place B, but they need road, a proper shortest method, easiest method or easiest way to go from place A to place B, that is road. Even if you don't have any vehicle, any other means and modes of transport, right, then also if you are just walking by foot, then also you need a proper road. If you are walking by foot, okay, we can take a shortcut to forest, mountain, etc., but that's going to be difficult if we are carrying load either with us or with animals, right? So in that way, the shortest possible, simplest possible and easiest possible route that we can have on, even if we don't have any material other thing, then also road transport is very, very necessary. So road transport, roads are the most basic and the most important transportation since ancient time. We have been using lots and lots of routes through which we go from one place to other, either with material or without any material. If we have lots of material to carry, we cannot carry that load on ourselves, so we used beasts of burden, that is animals, to carry for us. Then we had carriages, so we put that same material on the carriages and we went along with that. We need good roads to travel on if we want to decrease the time that we spend from reaching from place A to place B. So good roads, they are the most basic and the most important transportation since ancient times. Now, one can trace the existence of road network in India since the rule of Samrat Ashok and Chandragupta Maurya. If we are talking about roads, then roads were made even in the ancient time. We can trace back the roads that, for example, the GT road, the Grand Trunk Road, built by Samrat Ashok and Chandragupta, exist even today also. Yes, it's called GT Road. Yes, Grand Trunk Road, right? So they knew the importance of that road properly because they had a very big empire. If we are talking about Samrat Ashok, King Ashok, or Chandragupta Maurya, they were they were the owners of quite huge empire, and they needed very good roads to transport men and material. On top of that, they needed good roads to transport their army from one place to another. So if there is a revolt anywhere, or if they see outside invasion, they can very quickly reach the borders of their empire so that they can protect their empire, they can protect the people of that empire by sending the army quickly. Now army will be able to uh, move very quickly if the roads are good. Even in those days when the army moved on horseback and carried whatever their fighting equipment with the help of horse carriages, etc. But they needed good roads and good transport. So we have evidence of it. So one can trace the existence of road network in India since the times of King Ashoka or Chandragupta Maurya. Roads are complementary to the railways, sea routes, and air routes. Now, what is the meaning of complementary? Complementary is if you don't have that, this is always there. Yes, if you don't have, suppose, air routes, yes, then land is always available. Yes, so land route is obvious. If you don't have air routes, you have land routes. If you don't have sea routes, then also you can go from a level. You can at least move through most of the continents with the help of land routes. Yes, you don't need any small ship or boat to cross. If we are crossing the continent, say from the farthest point of Russia, uh, we can come all the way to Asia, and we can always cross into Europe by land route. So we can cross continents with land route. You don't need an air route. You don't need a sea route over there. Railways, if there are no railways, still land routes will be available. So land route, they are complementary to the railways, sea routes, and air routes. Some of the most important characteristics of land road or the roads are, now what are the characteristics? What exactly is needed for the roads? Yes, that we are talking. Some of the most important characteristics of the roads are they have a widespread network. Yes, we live in a city. We know in four different direction. We wherever we want to go, there are good roads leading to all direction. Even if we want to reach the village, then also we have a very good road which will take you to the highway to where that village can touch the highway. Then you might be having, say, not a metal road, a kacha road, but then that road leads you to that village, right? So they have a very widespread network. You can reach to each and every remotest part of the land with the help of the road. Assures safety of goods. Yes, now what happens in sea? There are storms, there are cyclones. Yes, the ships may turn topsy-turvy, turtle, and all your goods, men and material, everything is lost. Same thing happens in air, right? और कुछ नहीं, engine बंद हो गया, yes, the plane is going to crash, right? So lost to man. Same thing happens to railway. Railway quite speedy, yes, it derails or has an accident, right? So but roads, they are the safest way to assure. If you don't have railway network, road is there. If you don't have sea network, then you have roads. If you don't have air network, then also you have roads. So roads are not only complementary, but it assures safety of goods. Saves time and are cheap, so saves money. Yes, first you have to go to a port. First you have to go to an airport. Yes, wherever the other airport is, from there you have to reach your destination. And by air is very much costlier. By sea, it is cheaper, but then it takes a lot of time. So road not only assures safety of your goods and material, but it also saves time. Plus, it's quite cheap. Comparatively, it's quite cheap, and it is easily accessible, right? You want a truck, you just give a phone call, truck is there, right? You want a smaller transport, chota hati, it's always available. You just go on a circular path around your house, and you'll get a transport very easily. Autos, you have a, right? So it is easily available, it's quite cheap. Yes, you don't waste time. That is the most important thing, right? Airports where flights have time, railways they have timings, right? But this transport is available quite cheaply, and it saves a lot of time and money also. Can be used to transport anything and everything that can be thought of. Yes, well, you might have seen when we go on highways, we see those huge blades of that windmill which generates electricity. Yes, it's transport. It's so huge. Yes, quite a bit turbines. For multi-purpose projects, you might be seeing moving on the road. They're quite huge. They are quite big, right? Whatever the size, you can always easily transport it by road. You think of putting that huge turbine on ship from one country to another, that's okay. But then you should have proper equipment to do that, right? So, road transport, very easily available, cost effective, and just think of anything, any, anything. You can always transport it by road. Roads are the only link to connect goods, men, and a region. One region is attached with another region. Maharashtra is attached with Andhra. So both the states, whether it is men or material, whether it is people or goods, they can be transported very easily because it covers a complete region of complete Maharashtra and complete Andhra Pradesh, right? So roads are the only link. Even if you don't have any airports, even if you don't have any railway track over there, roads will still be there with which you can transport men and material. You go to the mountain areas, yes, mostly you will find roads because railway cannot be constructed in mountainous terrain and becomes quite difficult, right, to maintain them. So roads, we can manage it, we can still maintain it. Yes, yeah, road band ho gaya, you will find an alternative, but you cannot do that with the railways. Yes, ye railway track band ho gaya, chalo aur udur se ghum ke aate. No, the train can't go that way, right? Because tracks are not that, they you'll need a lot of time to lay another track. But for roads it's not that, right? India has the third largest road system in the world after United States of America and China. Please remember this particular point. United States has the largest road system in the world. The second largest road system China has, and India has the third largest road system in the world. Okay, so please remember this. We have a very intricate, very complex system of roads. Yes, there is not a single place in India where you cannot reach by road. Now, Indian roads, for the purpose of maintaining, for the purpose of responsibility, yes, they are divided into three. What are they? Actually, five. I say it. National highway, that is the first one. Second is state highway. Third is district road. The fourth one and the fifth one is alternate village, that is approach roads, and border roads. These are the five divisions for the administrative purpose, for constructing purpose, and for responsibility purpose. Please remember these 3 points. Why have we divided the types of roads? For example, the national highways. National highways, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Telangana, Andhra, Karnataka. This is the capital of Gujarat. From there you can reach the capital of Maharashtra. From there you can reach the capital of Karnataka. Alternate road will go for capital of Telangana or capital of Andhra. From there you will have, right? So National highways, they mean connecting one region to another, connecting one state to another, and in this way you can reach any part of the country with the help of national highways. Now, because they are national, they have to be constructed by the central government. They have to be planned by the central government, right? So all the responsibility falls on the central government, because these are the national highways are the one which link even the remotest place to the port in Maharashtra, that is Mumbai, or to a port in Andhra, that is Visakhapatnam, or to a port in Karnataka, that is um, any, for the purpose of export, import anyway, right? So these are national highways. So the responsibility lies on the central government. Then we come to district roads. Yes, a national highway from Maharashtra leads to Gujarat. Now we are talking about district roads, right? Now Maharashtra से गुजरात के capital तक the national highways आया. Then this is within. So this highway can continue. Yes, lots of other small district roads will be meeting over here. Yes, Bhavnagar hai, Rajkot hai, Jamnagar hai, right? So lots of district roads which come from the district capital or the district headquarters. They from here district headquarters they reach this national highway, and from they can reach the capital of the state. So these are the district road, but because they fall in a particular district, so they will be maintained by the state, so they are called the state highways, right? Then we have district highways. Then we have approach road. Approach road is nothing, for example, a highway, whether it is national highway, yes, whether it is state highway, whether it is district road or a highway, whatever. Now this is village and this is the highway. It might have a kacha road over here, but this is the road with the help of which you can reach from the highway to the village. Yes, so this is the kacha road. It is an approach road. This road approaches you to the village. So this is a village approach road, right? So in this way, for the purpose of administration, for the purpose of maintenance, because money is involved in making, constructing, planning, organizing and maintaining these roads. So the responsibility should lie somewhere. So that is what these roads are bifurcated or divided for. First is, we have 5 types. First is national highway, next is state highway, then we have district roads, we have village approach roads, and the last one is border road. Yes, we'll learn about all these 5 one by one. Over and above these roads, India has also constructed roads connecting all major ports, because these ports are extensively used for export and import. So from any corner of India, goods and raw material should be able to reach the fastest and the shortest route possible to the particular port which is very near to that place from where the finished product or the raw material is to be exported out of the country. So a port is very necessary, because rest of these raw material or finished products can be transported to another country, exported, or from there imported raw material, finished products from there to reach that port, and from that port it can reach the place with the help of the roads. So other roads are constructed so that from any corner of India you can reach the nearest port or the largest port, so that you can export import goods. Now, contribution of various modes of transport in India. Now, contribution means which roads are used more for the daily routine purpose, for the progress of the economy of the country, for the development of people, for various other purpose. What is the contribution? How much is it used? For example, mode of transport. Suppose it is the roadways. Then we have railways. then we have airways, and then last we have waterways. These are the modes of transport. What are the modes of transport? Which method do you use for transportation? So it can either be roadways, it can either be railways on land. If we are uh, if we are using the water, that means it can be either the rivers, either the lakes or the seas or the ocean. All that comes in waterways. If we are using air, how much contribution to complete all the transportation that we use, out of that airways ka kitna percent hai? What is the contribution of the airways in transporting men and material? So the largest we can see is the roads. India is a very vast and huge country, and we have lots of geography, right? So we have lots and lots of land routes. They are more quicker. Roadways, they are more quicker. 83%. Its contribution in transportation in percentage, if 100% transportation is done with including all the different modes of transport, out of that 83% is secured by the roads, 9% is secured by the railways. Out of the 100%, what is the use we make for railways? 9%. It comes down to 6 in airways. And though we have such a large number of big rivers, yes, then also the total transportation 100%, we have only 2% contributed by waterways. So you put that same data in the pie chart. This is how the data would look in a pie chart, right? If we want to enlarge it a little bit, so this is how it will look, right? 83%. We conclude all the transportation that we do, all the modes taken together, then 83% is contributed by the road transport. Yes, 9% by railway. So 83 plus 9 on land. Yes, 83 plus 9. So that will be 92%, right? So 92% of our transportation is done through land, right? Including roadways, which has a major contribution in transportation, 83%, plus 9 if you take railway, because railway will be on land. So together they will have 92%. Rest of the 8%, out of that, majority is done by air and only 2% by air. Now, Indian railways, roadways can be divided into national highways, state highways that we did, right? These 5 things. Now we come to national highways. Yes? Now, this is the definition of national highway. I'll put a star mark over here. It means this is the definition, quite an important point. Should be included in your answer. What is a national highway? Because Indian roads can be divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of that, national highway, right? So national highway is the highway that connects one state with other is called a national highway. It can be called a national highway only if it connects two states, right? So what is a national highway? National highway is that which connects one state with another. That's called a national highway. Now, highways are extremely important for economic development of the nation. We have learned earlier that natural resources, they are distributed unevenly all over the earth, all over the countries. Now, if you come to a particular country, say India, in India also natural resources, they are haphazardly found all over India. Suppose cotton grows in Gujarat and Maharashtra. Now cotton doesn't grow in J&K, it doesn't grow in Arunachal Pradesh or the 7 states and many other states in India. So cotton is produced in majorly in 2 states, that is Gujarat and Maharashtra, where cotton becomes the raw material. All over the country there are textile mills which convert that cotton into yarn and yarn into uh, cloth has to be dyed color, threads have to be dyed color, lots of work is there. Yes, so highways are extremely important for economic development of the nation. Yes, so each and every state they have various industries, and raw material perhaps for those industries is not available or available in less quantity in their own state, so they have to buy from other state raw material. So that raw material has to be transported by road with the help of national highway and come to another state where it can be processed. Again, the finished product has to be distributed all over the country using national highway. So understand this point, highways are extremely important for economic development of the nation. They are also a very safe means of transport. Why are they safe means of transport? all all over the national highways you have police, you have traffic police, you have points, checkpoints everywhere, right? So these national highways are extremely safe because of the presence of the policing work of the police department, whether that is traffic police, RTO. We have numerous departments to take care of the safety of these roads. If a road becomes unsafe, the responsibility first lies on the police to make it safe. Understand? So, stealing of goods, harming people, injuring people, all those things become less on roads because constant monitoring by the policing force is done. Right? So that men and material both are protected. Right? The luggage gets lost or stolen, if the goods are stolen on whole the truck is stolen, it becomes unsafe, right? So how can we assure safety? Because we have good roads, we have good police work, right? So in this way they are also the safest means of transport. It is the central government, now comes the responsibility कि national highway बनाएगा कौन? पहले तो रोड प्लान करना है, right? Then lots of people will be owning, otherwise it's a government land, or in between lots of people's land will fall, so that land has to be bought from the individual and added, and then the road has to be made. So who is going to pay for planning, for constructing, and the last one, maintaining, right? So who is going to pay for it? If it is a national highway, it is the central government who builds and takes care of the national highway. Complete responsibility of the national highway rests on the central government. Other ways it can give maintenance money to the state government. State government also can help out, right? But the money will be initially supplied by the central government. So who is responsible for national highway? That is this point. It is the central government who is taking care of the national highway, planning it, building it, maintaining it, whatever. National highways interconnect state capitals, large industrial and commercial cities, and major ports. Yes, what is that national highway doing? It is serving lots of purposes. What are these purposes? For example, national highway interconnects state capitals. Yes, Mumbai is the capital of Maharashtra. Gandhinagar is the state capital of Gujarat. A national highway connects Mumbai to Gandhinagar or Ahmedabad, right? Same way, Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar is connected with Jaipur, which is the capital of Rajasthan. Same way, Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad is connected, very well connected with Bhopal. These are the three nearest states, right? Then these states are further connected to adjoining states. So interconnect state capitals. Now, large industrial and commercial cities and major ports. Now, take for example, this is Gandhinagar, this is Ahmedabad. We are talking about Gujarat. This is Gandhinagar, this is Ahmedabad, this is Mumbai. So from all the way to Mumbai, we have a national highway reaching Ahmedabad and thus Gandhinagar. It means the same. Just considering it. Now, we have Kandla over here, which is one of the largest port in Gujarat for export and import. So Mumbai, it is itself a port, so it might not need any other port for transportation. But suppose that goods is coming from Delhi. From Delhi, it has to come to Jaipur, which is the capital of Rajasthan. From the Rajasthan, we have a straight route, which is Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad, and from there we have a straight route to Kandla. Right now, Kandla, it's a port. Same way, Vadodara. Vadodara is a industrial city, a hub, right, for producing chemical fertilizers, chemicals. Beyond Vadodara, we have Bharuch, Ankleshwar, uh, doing all that oil industry, right, refining process. Then other industries which are dependent on the different um, things that we get from oil. So these states, that Bharuch, Vapi, Surat. Now Surat is for textile, right? So for this different types of industries or major ports, things can be transported. For example, textile from Surat can go via Vapi, Bharuch, etc. to Ahmedabad and reach Delhi. So roads, national highways, they are very, very important. The last point, national highways, they not only interconnect state capitals, but large industrial and commercial cities and major ports are well connected with the help of national highways. Now, these roads also connect India with neighboring countries like Myanmar, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, China. The same national highways. We have lots of neighboring countries, for example, Pakistan. We have a particular national highway that leads to the border of India, Pakistan. From there on, continues into Pakistan. They have a different national highway over here. But that is that road which connects the last point of India to the next country, whether it is Pakistan, whether it is Nepal. We have a road which touches the border of Nepal and then continues on as a national highway of Nepal. So national highways not only interconnect the state capitals, major industrial hubs, ports, etc., but it also connects our country with the neighboring country, that is Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, China, Myanmar. All these are well connected with the help of national highways. Now, two things to remember over here in the next point. National highway number 44. All these national highways are numbered. Now, whatever I am saying, please remember it. It might not be present in the material given over there, though a separate map would be available. Yes, but those maps also have quite a lot of restrictions or limitations. So all the national highways are numbered, right? Now we know mathematics, numbers are of two types. Either it can be an odd number or even number, right? So as and when it comes, when we do the map work, please remember this: odd number, even number of the national highways. In it allows you to do that map work, right, if you know this thing. So national highway number 44 is the longest highway of the country. Now from where to where it goes? It goes from Srinagar in J&K to Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu. Very, very easy. Very, very easy. You know Srinagar, you know Kanyakumari at the tip of the South India, right? So that is Kanyakumari. On the top you have J&K, you have Srinagar, right? So Srinagar se leke Delhi hote hue, that road comes from Srinagar down straight to Tamil Nadu. You can say it's a vertical length. It stretches the vertical length of India. India is above Srinagar also, लेकिन कन्याकुमारी के नीचे कुछ नहीं है, right? So it is the longest road which starts from the top of the country, that is J&K, crown of the country, that is J&K, to the tip of the southern peninsula, that is Kanyakumari. Yes, we'll learn about the length and that all later on, right? The map, right? These are the things that are given in the text. We'll follow that. Now, the Golden Quadrilateral is a national highway network which connects all the four metro cities of India, namely Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata. कुछ समझ में आया? नहीं, तो कहाँ से शुरू करना पड़ेगा? शुरू का करना पड़ेगा quadrilateral. Yes, I hope standard 10 student knows what's a quadrilateral. What's a quadrilateral? Any of the shape is a quadrilateral. Yes, four sides might be equal, might not be equal, but it's a closed figure having four sides. That's a quadrilateral. Simple. Okay. Now, when we come to India, four mega city you say, right? Or metro city you say, we have four quite huge big cities in India which are above the population of 1 crore, right? So they are quite huge, right? Not only in population but density also, and considered among the four mega cities of India. They are Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, and Mumbai. They are the four mega cities. So a golden quadrilateral, that means a road, it is not that straight. Okay, I am just drawing on a blackboard, a whiteboard, that is why it looks straight. But what I mean to make you understand is this is the quadrilateral that I am talking about. Yes, now this point is quite important. Yes, because Delhi se leke Kolkata, lots of states are covered. For example, Delhi itself considered nowadays declared NRC, right? That is National Capital Region, NCR. Then we have UP, then we have Bihar, and then we start with West Bengal. So three states are covered over here. From Kolkata, that is West Bengal, we come down to Orissa, then we come down to Andhra, and then Tamil Nadu. We have China. So that also crosses, this road crosses four states. Now from Chennai, that is Tamil Nadu, we have Kerala, then we have Karnataka, then we have Maharashtra. Again, three states are covered over here. Then Maharashtra leke Delhi tak, we have a quadrilateral, right, which crosses MP, Rajasthan, reaches. Now, what is the purpose of this golden quadrilateral, right? So that the road, a new road will be made which links directly Delhi to Kolkata, right? A single road which links Delhi to Kolkata without any stopping, right? All the states in between, they will be having their national highways, right? Those national highways can be linked to these for easy access. And from the top also, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal, J&K, Uttarakhand, all these states can be, with the help of their national highways, linked to the golden quadrilateral. Then the journey from Delhi to Kolkata becomes very easy. Somewhere in the middle, somebody wants to reach Chennai. Instead of going through lots of different routes, he simply has to catch the golden quadrilateral, which is the nearest, and then from there he will have a straight run to the nearest megacity wherever he wants to reach. Now we have to remember that Delhi is the capital of the country, right? Maharashtra, capital of Mumbai, capital of Maharashtra, Chennai, capital of Tamil Nadu, Kolkata, capital of West Bengal. Apart from this, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata, they are very, very important ports and very, very important international airports, right? So for import export of goods, material, and for people to easily come into India and go out of India, these places are absolute necessity. By constructing a golden quadrilateral, we make transportation more easy, more faster, right? So this point is very, very important. And map question, one single question, draw golden quadrilateral, right? The map is given to you. The map is given, provided to you in the exam. You just have to mark 4 spots: Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, Mumbai, and connected. Yes, you'll be having a map in your material which tells you exactly how the golden quadrilateral should be drawn. It is not that way. Yes, scale लेके नहीं draw करना है. Yes, you see where exactly it is going. Try to practice it for 5, 6 times, 10 times, so that you know exactly what are the curves needed in that golden quadrilateral. We'll have a map. We'll discuss when it comes. Now, national highway number. Now we have some important national highways that you should remember, and also we got to mark it, right? So the golden quadrilateral is a national highway network which connects all the 4 metro cities of India, that is Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata. Now, national highway number 27, 41, 47, 141, 147, etc. pass through Gujarat. So remember these numbers. Remember these numbers. Now, these numbers, national highways, right? So, national highway, when you put it on the map, yes, and they have numbers. So, what we do usually is national highway N and H. NH 27. So, whenever you draw a national highway like this from this place to this place, right, you write the starting station, ending station, that is destination, and 1 or 2 in between cities also you have to remember, right, and name it as NH27 and put that in the legend. Yes, we'll be doing map work separately for this particular chapter. At that time we'll learn, and along with that, whenever we go through a particular topic having important map work, we'll discuss it along with the question answers. So please remember, the national highways which pass through Gujarat, they are numbered as 27, 41, 47, 141 and 147. Now if you see these numbers properly, all of them are odd numbers. All of them are odd numbers, right? We discussed in this lecture exactly we have to remember odd numbers and even numbers or national number for national highways, right? So if any national highway, I'm saying this purposefully, if any national highway goes from east to west, goes from not west to east, goes from east to west, yes, goes in this direction from eastern side towards Gujarat, that is western side, then they will be numbered odd. They will be numbered odd. And any national highway which grows from north to south, that is from J&K, it might be J&K, Kashmir, it might be J&K, or it might even start from Jharkhand, but it is going downwards from north to south. Equally, it can start from Jaipur also. It can start from Jaipur and go towards Mumbai, that is downwards, south. Then it will be numbered even. If it is going from east to west, horizontal, right? Then it will be having odd number. National highway number will be odd if it goes from east to west. If it goes from north to south, vertical, yes, then even number, right? Please remember this. It becomes very easy in map marking, because any highway is told to you, any national highway that is told to you, you just look at it whether it is odd or even. If it is even, it should go horizontally. If it is odd, then it goes horizontally. If it is even, जहां से भी शुरू करता है वो साउथ में जाएगा, साउथ की तरफ जाएगा. That means it will go vertically downwards, right? Wherever it starts from. So easy to score marks in map. These numbers were changed by the government of India in 2011. So 2011 से पहले का कोई भी मैप देखोगे उसमें odd even mixed होगा. Yes, for example, the most used national highway in Gujarat is 8A, 8, 8A, 8B, 8C, that way. Odd number है. 2011, the government of India changed the numbers of all the national highways at a time, and they were renamed. After this renaming, we have odd number national highway going from east to west. After 2011, even number, that means going from north to south. So they were renamed in a proper way so that it's good for administration, right? So we'll stop over here for the day. Thanks, students.